What is it like to get coached as a writer? I get this question a lot because coaching has gotten more popular, but a lot of people and a lot of writers in particular haven't yet been coached. So they don't know. Like, what is that? Is it like rah rah? Is it like therapy? Is it like whatever? So I'm going to give you 3 quick answers to that question. I'm going to tell you about 5 ways I learned to coach writers. And I'm going to give you 3 action steps that you can take to explore coaching for you on any budget level. So let's get into this. Number 1, section A of this live stream, what's it like getting coached? So one main way to think about it is, as a writer, it's like your absolute ideal audience member listening to you and paying attention to you. Like, that's the experience of it. Like, you being heard in the most soulful, deep, amazing way. Like, you being heard for the deepest things you want to be heard for. That's number 1. Number 2, a good coach will also then give you customized steps for you to fully realize that vision into a screenplay and get that screenplay into the right hands so that you can connect your audience and find that real life person who will love that story that you wrote. So that perfect audience from your vision. So number 1 is you basically listen to. Number 2 is a coach will customize a path for you to, as quickly as possible, get to your ideal customer or your ideal audience member. And number 3, another way to think about it is, if you think about where you are now as the beginning of a 3-act process, right? You're in Act 1. And Act 3 is the clearing that you want to get to. And Act 2 is the woods. So coaching is really that Act 2 experience of you going into the woods and not getting lost there for months or years or decades or forever. So, yeah, and the woods is a really wonderful psychological metaphor for all the scary stuff inside us. But that feels like a pretty accurate description to me in terms of when I coach other people and when I've been coached myself. It feels like having the most amazing person with you in the woods, in the deepest, darkest places, so that you can go through as quickly as possible and get to the clearing for you, whatever your clearing is. Okay, so I'll repeat those 3 quick answers again. Number 1, it's really getting listened to deeply. Number 2, it's getting shown where to go in a very practical, actionable way in terms of step forwards, so you get customized support in where you want to go. And 3, metaphorically, it feels like moving through the woods to the clearing of your dreams. So that's pretty cool, huh? Here are the 5 ways I learned about this profession of coaching and this option for me as a writer to get coached, because it happens both ways for me because it's so helpful. So first, the way I got listened to deeply for the first time in my life was a therapist that I had in my early 20s, this guy named Bob Bosworth, who's now passed on 20 years ago. Man, this guy was awesome. He was, I was, 20 or something when I went to him, and he was like 65, but he felt so immediate and so much like an equal and a champion to me and my soul. I just had never been like listened to in the way that he would listen to me and just would like study me and just behold me and champion me. It was absolutely amazing. And he was like this, actually kind of like an outlaw therapist. Like, I don't even think he had a degree or anything. I mean, he had some obviously training, but like it was a referral from, it was a woman that I was dating at the time. And she's like, I think this guy can help us. I was like, all right. And she was like, you raving about this guy, how amazing he was. I was like, all right. And so I went and I was like, yeah, this guy's amazing. And partly because he just would hold space and just ferociously commit to listening to his patients. It was amazing. So I learned a listening experience firsthand as a patient, and it was completely changed my life. So that's number 1. Number 2, there's an aspect of any good friend or colleague you have, there's an aspect of coaching going back and forth in a sense. It's like a very amateur basic level of it, but there's similarities to it, right? So when I started first making films and making movies in high school with my buddies, it was a lot of fun, but we would, in a sense, kind of coach each other with things. And then I went to NYU Film School, and there was sort of, peer-to-peer, casual sort of coaching going on there. And then when I got to Hollywood, I started a writers group here in LA, and that too was sort of like peer level coaching. And it's just trying to help somebody out, with whatever intuitive thing, because it's always, somebody else's problems are a lot heavier than your own, right? And it's a nice relief from your own problems to pay attention to somebody else. So peer coaching is a really beautiful thing that you can get in any sort of good peer relationship. It's, and it's free. It's an exchange. So that's a really great thing that you can do. There's personal growth groups. Often those they can be free or low cost, or there's some more pricier ones, but there it's not, the other things were sort of colleagueships and sort of coaching in a colloquial, just collegial way. Personal growth stuff is about, deeper psychological issues, this challenge or that challenge. My life challenge was around abandonment, my dad not being around in the way that I wanted him to be. And how I dealt with that the wrong way and the right way, blah, blah, blah. So the, not blah, 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 diminishing it, just trying to get to the point here that we all have our own personal psychological stuff, and personal growth circles are a really beautiful place to explore that and make sense of it so you can see it clearly and then put it to service to your relationships and the stories that you write. And in those groups, especially if it's like a significant organization, like I've been part of the Mankind Project for 20 years, and there's sort of a hierarchy that comes in as you get to be a senior member of a group. You end up leading processes in a way that you don't do when you're in the beginning, and that sort of progression helps deepen your skills as a coach. But there's lots of different organizations there, fitting for every budget, and you will get and give really deep sort of communication connections with people. Teaching at UCLA was sort of an interesting way, because so teaching in a formal setting, I created a curriculum, 3-hour classes, and I would lecture, and I try to get them to understand things. And how would we know if they understand them? I have to create tests, and a rubric. It was, to me, a little constrained and academic, and I mean that in a bit of a superficial way, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just lighter. It's more heady. It's like you get ideas, you don't get experiences. But it was helpful for me to go through and walk people through. I taught story analysis for screenwriting, for film and TV, and I taught story development, and I would walk them through sort of academic processes, and it was fine and it was fun, and that was helpful because a big part of coaching is helping somebody else on their journey, whatever that is. And so, traditional education has been doing that for hundreds of years. And some aspects of what they do is actually really good. The accountability part of it's really good. They're really good at measuring something. The problem is what they're measuring often isn't really the most valuable things for them to measure, but they have to measure something. Anyway, going through it was really helpful for me to kind of get a sense of the value of measurement, and then the value of progression, and just holding people's attention for three hours I would lecture. So all that stuff was really helpful and definitely made me a better coach. Some of the most insightful support and development I got in a coaching experience, and what made me a better coach, is the experiences I had with co-writers in my screenplays and producers. I worked with really high-level producers and really insightful producers, and they are invested in that project being great. And if they're paying me a lot of money, they're really invested. So listening to their notes and the notes beneath the notes, and how we dealt with conflicts and all those things was super valuable, and definitely informed the way that I'm able to coach writers. What do they care about? What do they not care about? How do they express it? A lot of diplomacy really is what goes on in getting work as a professional screenwriter. You have to have the craft, but like the career strategy of diplomacy, and when to push back, and how to set boundaries, and what to ask for, and how to contribute your voice when there's way too many cooks in the kitchen, and blah, 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 a million other things. And that was deeply informed how I am as a coach. And also having co-writers was great because, you know, I was on the hook for every word in that screenplay. My co-writer is on the hook for every word in that screenplay. So we'd kind of have to, you know, influence each other or negotiate back and forth or whatever. And it was at times coach each other in terms of like having to spare, like, oh crap, this didn't go the way we wanted or whatever, or this is going great, or what's the next level. Or so there's those sort of relationships with me and producers and me and co-writers absolutely informed the way I coach writers. This one's a really fun one because when people think of coach, they generally think of athletic coaching. And I actually have a whole background in that too, because I was an athlete growing up. I got a lot of my joy and socializing and identity kind of caught up in being an athlete. I played soccer at NYU, and I coach my sons in basketball, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to brag because I got a trophy right here. It's a trophy. This is the second championship we won in a row, and we're actually just embarking on a third rec season to see if we can get. I mean, I've done 50 of them, but like we won the championship 2 years in a row. We're going to try to win a third. But whether we win or not is actually secondary, because good coaching is about something way bigger than that. The trophies and the wins and blah blah blah, all those things happen. Or in screenwriting, sales happen, deals happen, more money happens, whatever, when we're aligned well and we're serving the community. But you want to be aware of that part, the score, the trophies, the stats, blah blah blah, those hard numbers, but they're just like a simple small part. The most important thing that you pay attention to is the flow and the focus and the depth and the experience. Like that's where, and when you're in that and listening to the muse and things are coming through you, then you get all those sort of concrete accolades. And sports are great because they don't mean anything. Like it's funny, like certainly like rec level sports don't mean anything, but even professional sports, they don't mean anything. This team wins, that team wins, whatever. It's all abstract. And that's really the beauty of it. It's a metaphor. Sports are a metaphor for the ups and downs of our own lives. And when you add stats to that, this player did this amount of things and got these numbers and whatever, it's a measure of how they're showing up and dancing with the flow of that game or whatever that sport is. But it can be so concretized when you're looking at the stats. So I love that as an athlete, and it always helped me develop as an athlete myself. And when I coach other people, I'm very specific about having some sort of measure for what they're doing, so it contains the experience of what they're doing, but they're not obsessed with that, you know. And I also, the other beautiful thing about it with when I coach kids, because I'm coaching a rec league, so there's kids at all sorts of different competitiveness levels, and I love to support the kid who's not really strong at basketball or whatever, because it's a rec league and everybody's welcome, and I treat that kid just as powerfully as like the kid that scores the most points. Like to me, we're all humans. It's really about the teamwork of all of us working together, and that purity and abstractness of a game, like who cares, it doesn't matter at all, allows me a way in to connect to something bigger, right? And that's exactly what I do when I coach writers. So we're talking about the script and the deal and the blah blah blah, but like that stuff, it matters, but it really matters this much. What really matters is how deep are you in your flow state. How purposeful do you feel in choosing this script? Like, what is your superpower? And like, why are you on the planet? And are you blowing people away? Like, there's all these other places to put your focus that really is going to make you a professional screenwriter way faster than a lot of the measures and things that a lot of screenwriters are kind of caught up in. And then you also don't want to be too disdainful of measures. You don't want to be obsessed with measurements, and you don't want to be foggy with measurements. You want to have an awareness that's clean and crisp and in the right proportion. So sports has helped me in that part as a coach. The last thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's actually not 5. It's more. I didn't do counting. This is actually 7, I think. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 ways I learned to coach writers. Sorry. Team sports. And the last one was getting coached myself. I love getting coached. I've been coached in like accountability partnerships. I've paid coaches, which is great. The thing is that when you're getting coached, to a significant degree, not completely, but to a significant degree, you're getting what you paid for. And you can see the people that charge more for coaching, you get a sense of why they do it. The beauty of the coaching business is that it spirals up. if you pay X and you get more than X value, that coach's price goes up and up and up, right? If the coach isn't getting people's results, they don't get any customers and they go out of business. So start with, if you're looking to get into to sort of experience being coached, just start with your friends, do it more formally, and we'll get into action steps next. But what I did was realize that I was being coached in all these different ways, and started, and then was coaching other people in all these different ways, blah, blah, blah. But I still get coached in my own process because it's just, because I can't, we have ideas, we have all the answers, we just can't access them ourselves. So a coach helps us connect those dots in ourselves in a way that's so efficient and so easy and so inspiring and supportive, because we can be really hard on ourselves and we can just be kind of oblivious at times, just foggy. The answer is always right. Is generally really close to us and accessible. And in theory, we could just do it ourselves. In practice, it really helps to have a coach, because a coach is just differentiated emotion. They go, dude, these dots connect, do this, do that. So I love it. I love getting coached, and I do it in all sorts of different ways, maybe too much. Okay, so 3 action steps. Let me review those 7 ways I learned to coach. A, I had a really amazing therapist. B, peer support, giving and giving. Personal growth groups was 3. 4 was teaching at UCLA was really helpful. 5, with peers that were co-writers and producers that were deeply invested in these projects that I was writing. 6, not professional. Well, I got paid sometime. I coached at high school soccer team once. But I was very serious youth sports coach. And then 7, getting coached myself. All those things have been absolute intrinsically amazing joy for me that have made me a better coach. So anybody out here that's listening that's like, oh man, coaching sounds cool. I bet I could make a big difference in my life. Here's what you can do at any level. Action step number 1. Oh, you can get free mentorship, which is, I think, really different than I see them as coaching is different. Like mentorship more broadly is basically any sort of person that we're looking up to that's helping us through the woods, right? But mentorship, like colloquially in the film business, there's like the Nickel Fellowships has a mentorship program, the WGA has a mentorship program, and there's a free one that the Inside Pitch does. Chris Lockhart has a Facebook group called the Inside Pitch. It's great. It's an amazing group. He's an amazing dude. And there's a tab that has all sorts of industry people saying, yeah, I'll mentor you. Great, free, go. And what you'll get out of that is their perspective on the industry, and you can ask them questions. It's a really great resource, totally free. You're not really getting coached. It's different. I mean, there's an aspect of it depending on how you want to define things, but it's free, it's nice, but you can ask them questions about whatever. What you don't have necessarily is people that are really all that interested or trained in helping you get results. What you have is an opportunity to ask a professional in the business questions. How did you do this? How did you do that? So it's a really good resource. It's almost more like a research resource. And then to really get the most value out of that, you'd have to kind of structure it. And then, because it's free, you're getting what you pay for. So their good nature will only go so long. 1 conversation, 2 conversations, maybe they'll give you notes on something, whatever, but it's going to be fairly limited, but it's free. What do you want? So you can do that for free. Get that. The other thing too is you can coach your peers. And I mentioned that a little bit before. So you have friends or writers groups or whatever. You could say, hey, you know what? I saw this guy, or I've been thinking, let's do a co-coaching relationship where you show up every day at, whatever time of the week, and once a week you just meet. Start that out as an accountability partnership, which is really simple. It's like a stripped down version. It's like, we're going to show up and I'm going to talk about the goals that I had, the writing goals for the week. You talk about your writing, I'm going to talk for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You're just going to reflect what you heard. Oh, I heard you say this, this, and that. Let's say 10 minutes of sharing, 5 minutes for the other person to reflect. I heard blah, 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 blah. And then you switch roles. Really simple, holding space, being listened to. That will make a big impact. I started doing that 10 years. There's a guy who's a TV writer, there's a guy, independent filmmaker, and the 3 of us have been doing it for 10 years or so. Amazing. Absolute game changer. Because you just need attention. You need people listening to you, and you need the experience of giving attention fully, deeply, without judgment. And that helps you write better characters, have more empathy for your audience, and write better stories. Right. So it's one way. It doesn't have to be your way. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But that's one way you can start practicing it right now on any budget with cool people for free. You have to choose the cool people. Cool people not included. You have to create those relationships and do it. And then the last way is you can get a free session with me. So one of the reasons I do this content, I enjoy being able to articulate what I think I know and share it, and give value, you guys. Whether we never meet each other ever again, that's fine. But some of the people that see this go, I like this guy. This guy's pretty interesting. And if that's you, click the link. It'll take you to a type form. It'll ask you some questions. And there's a certain segment of people that are my favorite types of people to really coach. And if you're in that category, we can get a free coaching session from me, and we'll see where you're at, where you are, what your woods are in like Act 2, and where you want to get to in your Act 3. And through the session, you'll get to experience what it's like with my style. And then I'll just help you, and wherever you're at that point, I'll say, okay, it seems like you're going to tell me where you're at. I just listen to it. And then we find out where you are in the woods. And I go, oh, well, here's a grappling hook, and here's a thing, and do this or there. And then maybe I can help you, or maybe this other guy can help you, or maybe whatever, or just, you don't need help at all. Just go. Like, I'm here to serve. And I love it. It's fun for me. The last thing I'll say is the reason it's fun for me, and the reason I would take time out of my own schedule. I've got 2 writing assignments cooking right now. I've got 2 other projects set up, and but I love it. I love writing my own stuff, but I also love having conversations with other writers, because I've solved so many of these story puzzles, and then I forget that I solved them. So like when I coach somebody else, it's a reminder, like, oh yeah, I've done all these cool things, and these things aren't just sitting in my mind doing nothing. I'm actually putting them of service to you. Because when I write a screenplay, I'm serving the producers, I'm serving the audience eventually, but that's a long, slow turning wheel. When I coach people, it's a fast turning wheel, and it's really deeply satisfying for me to be of service of somebody in the moment in a one-on-one conversation in that way. So that's why I do it. If that sounds fun for you, sign up. Maybe you're a match, and we will go from there. That's what I got. I hope you have an absolute spectacular day or night, or day and night.